The grand hall of Zareth Prime sparkled with lights that danced like tiny stars. Aliens of every shape and color moved through the great space, their voices a mixture of hums, clicks, and musical tones. Humans had arrived in their shining fleet, dressed in uniforms of steel gray, their presence marking both pride and curiosity. Among them stood Commander Arik Vey, a human known for his calm mind and sharp thinking. Unlike the other humans, he did not rush to speak or boast. He waited, watching. Today was the day of the grand selection. Every 100 years, the witches of the distant colonies came to Zareth Prime to be chosen by the humans. Most humans sought the most beautiful witches, their sparkling eyes, smooth skin, and graceful movements the object of admiration. These choices were made for status, pride, and the attention of the aliens watching. But Arik's eyes did not scan for beauty. Instead, they studied every movement, every glance, and every small detail of the witches. His sharp gaze fell on Morwen, who stood alone at the edge of the hall. She was called the ugliest witch in the colony. Her skin was pale and uneven, her hair a tangled mess, and her voice rough, almost harsh. Other humans whispered and laughed, looking down at her with pity or amusement. Why would anyone choose her? One officer muttered, shaking his head. Arik did not answer. He simply studied her. There was something different about her, something the others could not see. Her eyes held a calm intelligence, and the way she moved hinted at strength, control, and confidence. Arik had learned long ago that appearances could deceive. True power often hid behind unusual forms. When the time came to make their choices, humans stepped forward, reaching for the most beautiful witches. Gasps filled the hall as Arik walked calmly toward Morwen. The aliens turned their heads, curious, whispering among themselves. The other humans stared, shocked, and some even laughed. Morwen looked up at him, her sharp features twisting in surprise. No one had chosen her before, not in memory, not in story. She had always been ignored or mocked. Yet here was Arik stepping forward with a quiet confidence. "I choose her," he said simply. The hall fell silent. Even the alien dignitaries stopped talking. Morwen blinked, as if hearing words she had not expected in 100 years. The whispers rose into murmurs. The ugliest witch? Chosen by the human commander? Arik looked directly at her. "You have skills others do not see. You understand things that others ignore. I value that more than beauty." Morwen's eyes widened. For once, someone saw her not for her looks, but for what she truly was. She bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. The journey back to the human fleet was quiet. Most humans avoided Morwen, unsure how to act. Some officers still whispered behind Arik's back, but he ignored them. He watched Morwen closely, noticing small details others would not. The way she flexed her fingers as if controlling invisible energy, the faint glow around her eyes when she thought deeply, and the calm way she surveyed the surroundings. Finally, unable to contain her curiosity, Morwen spoke. "You did not choose me for pity," she said, her voice rough but calm. "Why?" Arik smiled slightly. "Because I see what others do not. Strength, intelligence, awareness. You have all of these. In time, you will show me why you are the right choice." Morwen studied him, unsure if he was speaking truth or testing her. But there was honesty in his eyes, something rare in those who came to the grand selection. Most humans only cared for appearances. Arik cared for reality. As they moved through the corridors of the fleet, Morwen began to notice the humans not as aliens or strangers, but as observers, thinkers, and problem solvers. Arik spoke little, but his words were precise. He asked questions, made careful observations, and anticipated challenges even before they arrived. Morwen realized he was unlike any human she had met, calm under pressure, intelligent, and patient. Days passed as the fleet traveled through space. Morwen watched humans practice their strategies, run drills, and test new technology. She saw flaws in their approach, but she also noticed potential. She began to speak to Arik quietly, offering insights no one else would consider. "You could adjust the shield alignment slightly," she suggested one day. "It would protect the fleet from energy bursts more efficiently." Arik nodded, impressed. "You see details others miss. That is exactly why I chose you." The other humans began to notice her abilities too, though they did not yet fully understand them. Some began to respect her quietly, though no one dared admit it openly. The fleet moved toward a distant planet, rumored to be a test of human courage and strategy. It was said that only those who could think beyond appearances and react quickly could succeed. One night, Morwen approached Arik as he watched the stars. You trust me, she said. Even when others do not. Arik's gaze did not leave the stars. Trust is not given lightly. But I trust those who have the courage to be themselves even when others mock them. You have that courage. Morwen looked at him carefully. She had spent her life hiding behind her appearance, avoiding attention and surviving by staying unnoticed. Now for the first time, someone valued her for what she truly was. She felt a quiet strength growing inside her. The journey ahead would not be easy. Challenges awaited in the form of rival humans, alien factions, and tests of strategy that could determine the future of humanity. But for the first time, Morwen felt that she was not alone, and that the humans, especially Arik, might see her as an equal, not a mistake. As the fleet sailed past a field of distant stars, Morwen whispered to herself almost like a promise, I will show them who I really am, and they will understand why I am worth more than anyone imagined. Arik, standing nearby, did not hear her words, but he had already sensed the potential. The grand selection was about to begin, and neither beauty nor appearances would decide the outcome. Only insight, courage, and the strength to see beyond the obvious would matter. And in that silent understanding, the bond between human and witch began. A bond that would challenge the galaxy's ideas of value, power, and what it truly meant to be chosen. The human fleet moved steadily through the black of space. Stars stretched like silver threads and the hum of engines filled the corridors. Commander Arik Vey walked beside Morwen, observing the fleet's operations quietly. Unlike the other humans, he did not rush to show his knowledge or authority. He moved with calm purpose, knowing that every detail mattered. Morwen had begun to learn more about the humans. They were clever and disciplined, but also cautious. Many relied on rules and routines, expecting outcomes that followed logic. She understood why Arik had chosen her, not for beauty or charm, but for the ability to see possibilities others could not. Her first real test came sooner than she expected. Sensors on the flagship blinked red, signaling an approaching fleet of unknown ships. The alarms rang, and the humans moved quickly, activating weapons, shields, and defensive formations. Panic was brief. Discipline took over, but the situation was tense. Arik stepped forward, calm as always. We are not alone, but we are prepared. Morwen observed their energy patterns. Tell me what they plan. Morwen focused, closing her eyes. A faint glow surrounded her hands as she tapped into her powers. She could sense movements, intentions, and even weaknesses in the alien ships. Her abilities were subtle but precise, like a sharp blade cutting through mist. They are splitting into two groups, she said. One will attack our left flank, the other will circle behind us. Their energy bursts are weak but fast. If we use shields at specific angles, we can redirect most of the attacks. Arik nodded, impressed. Good. Begin. Morwen moved through the control panels, her hands glowing slightly as she adjusted energy flows. The shields hummed and shifted exactly as she predicted. The attacking ships fired, and their energy beams bounced harmlessly off the shields, scattered into space. Humans and aliens alike watched in amazement. Morwen's appearance no longer mattered. Her intelligence and skill were undeniable. During the battle, Arik noticed something else. Morwen was not only strong in energy manipulation, she also had a tactical mind. She suggested small maneuvers that minimized risk while maximizing efficiency. Each move was precise, like a chess master predicting dozens of steps ahead. The humans followed her advice, and slowly, the enemy fleet began to falter. By the end of the skirmish, the rogue ships retreated, leaving only silence in the cold void of space. The humans cheered quietly, though many still struggled to hide their astonishment. Morwen had saved not just the flagship, but the entire fleet. Later, in the strategy room, Arik spoke quietly to her. You see things we cannot. That is why I chose you. Others look at appearances and judge quickly. You look at possibilities and realities. Morwen hesitated. She had always hidden her powers, fearful that others would either misuse them or try to control her. But with Arik, there was trust, a rare thing in her life. You are confident in your choice, she said softly. Even when others doubt. I must be, Arik replied. In war, in strategy, in life, appearances are nothing. Understanding is everything, and I understand your strength. Over the following days, Morwen continued to reveal her skills. She could manipulate gravitational fields, allowing small ships to move faster and conserve energy. She interfaced with alien technology, translating their systems into forms humans could understand. Her rough voice and unusual appearance no longer mattered. In the eyes of the fleet, she was a master, someone who could protect and guide them through dangers they could not even imagine. But not everyone accepted her. Some human officers whispered in corners, questioning her loyalty or abilities. Some aliens, too, remained skeptical. Having never seen her power in action, Morwen ignored them, focusing instead on learning more about human systems and Auric strategies. One evening, the fleet approached an asteroid belt known as the Veil of Shadows, a region used for training and testing human courage. The asteroid field was treacherous, full of hidden gravitational anomalies and unstable rocks. The humans had to navigate carefully using speed, strategy, and precision. "Follow my lead," Auric said, speaking to both Morwen and the fleet. "We will move through slowly but with exact timing. One wrong move could break formation." Morwen smiled faintly. She had studied formations before, but she had never moved through a field this dangerous with humans. She extended her hand slightly, sensing the gravitational pull of every asteroid around them. She whispered adjustments to Auric, who relayed them to the fleet. Slowly, carefully, they moved through the field. Ships tilted, engines glowed, and humans held their breath. "Almost there," Morwen said. "One more shift, now." Auric gave the signal and the fleet adjusted. A massive rock loomed, but Morwen's powers subtly altered its course enough to create a safe path. The fleet passed through without damage. Cheers erupted quietly, but Morwen felt no pride, only focus. "You are more than I imagined," Auric said once the fleet had stabilized. "Your strength is not just in power, but in control." "That is rare," Morwen nodded. For the first time she felt she belonged. She had spent her life hidden, ignored, or laughed at. Now her skills and her mind were respected. She was valued for what she truly was. The humans began to see her differently, too. Officers who had doubted her before now came for advice. Morwen, once the ugliest witch, became an essential guide, blending her powers with human strategy. But the greatest challenge was still ahead. Rumors spread through the fleet of rival human factions, those who had chosen beauty over substance and now questioned Auric's wisdom. They were jealous, impatient, and willing to challenge anyone who disrupted the usual order. Auric and Morwen prepared together, anticipating these challenges. They trained, analyzed patterns, and tested new tactics. The bond between human and witch grew stronger, not just as allies, but as partners who respected each other's minds. One night, standing on the observation deck, Morwen looked at the stars. She whispered quietly to herself, a promise she had never spoken before. "They will see what I am capable of, not for beauty, not for charm, but for truth. They will understand." Auric, standing beside her, did not hear the words, but he felt the confidence in her presence. He knew that when the time came, Morwen would not only protect the fleet, she would show the galaxy what humans and witches could achieve together when trust and insight guided their actions. And so, as the fleet sailed toward unknown dangers, one thing was certain: appearances did not matter. Intelligence, skill, and courage did. And Morwen, the witch everyone had ignored, was about to prove that the ugliest could be the most powerful. The distant asteroid fortress loomed like a dark jewel against the blackness of space. Its jagged walls and glowing energy turrets made it seem impenetrable. Commander Auric Vey studied the sensors carefully, knowing that this was more than a test. It was a challenge to his judgment, his fleet, and to the very decision that had stunned the galaxy, choosing Morwen, the ugliest witch, as his prize. Inside the fortress, rival humans whispered and planned. They had chosen the most beautiful witches, confident that charm and appearance would win the favor of alien dignitaries and secure their place as heroes. Now they faced Auric's fleet, protected and guided by Morwen, whose presence they still mocked quietly. They underestimated her, and that would be their mistake. Auric turned to Morwen. "They think they can outsmart us with their power and appearances. But you and I know the truth. Are you ready?" Morwen nodded. "I have been ready for this my whole life. They do not see what I can do." The fleet moved into position, careful and deliberate. The enemy fleet was strong but predictable. Morwen's powers, combined with Auric's strategy, gave them an advantage no one else could anticipate. The battle began with a flurry of energy blasts, engines glowing, and ships twisting through the void. The rival humans used every tactic they had learned, but Morwen anticipated each move. With a subtle gesture, she manipulated gravitational fields, causing enemy ships to drift off course. Energy blasts that should have struck the flagship fizzled harmlessly into space. Auric directed the fleet calmly, relaying Morwen's advice and making adjustments in real time.
Flank right.
Increase shield alignment by 12%. Watch the energy spikes. Every command was precise, every action planned with careful calculation. The rival humans grew frustrated. They had expected a simple victory, relying on appearances and assumed superiority. But Auric and Morwen were a team no one had predicted. Morwen's powers were unlike anything they had seen. She could alter the flow of energy, shift gravity, and even interface with alien systems to turn enemy weapons against them. During the chaos, Morwen sensed a hidden weapon in the fortress, a massive energy cannon that could destroy the entire fleet if fired. She whispered to Auric, who immediately acted. "They are preparing a final strike," she said. "We must neutralize it now or everything is lost." Auric nodded. "Guide me." Morwen extended her hands, the glow of her energy spreading across the command console. She traced patterns in the air, altering the gravitational pull around the weapon. Rocks shifted, energy pulses fluctuated, and the cannon misfired, sending a harmless beam into empty space. The enemy fleet scrambled, unable to understand how their most powerful weapon had failed. Auric smiled slightly. "Well done," he said. "Now let's finish this." With Morwen's guidance, the fleet advanced. Ships moved as if guided by an invisible hand, dodging attacks and striking with precision. Enemy ships collided or were pushed out of formation. Energy blasts were redirected, shields reinforced, and communication lines disrupted, all under Morwen's quiet control. In the heart of the fortress, the rival leaders realized their mistake too late. They had chosen appearance over substance, underestimating the human ability to see beyond what the eye could perceive. Morwen, once ignored and mocked, now controlled the battlefield with skill, intelligence, and power. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled. The fortress's turrets fell silent. The rivals surrendered, not out of fear of violence alone, but out of awe at the strategic brilliance they could not match. Auric landed on the fortress's central platform with Morwen. The alien dignitaries who had watched the grand selection, expecting a spectacle of beauty, were now witnesses to something far greater. Humans and witches, united by insight, strategy, and trust, had triumphed. Morwen stood tall, her appearance no longer a point of ridicule. Her energy still shimmered faintly, her eyes bright with determination. She had proven that power, intelligence, and courage mattered more than charm or superficial beauty. Auric looked at her, respect and pride shining in his eyes. "You were the right choice," he said simply. "Not for pity, not for appearances, for what you truly are." Morwen smiled, a rare, genuine expression, "And you saw it. That is what matters." The rival humans were escorted away, their pride broken but their minds enlightened. Even they could not deny the lesson. Appearances deceive, but true skill and insight cannot be hidden. The alien dignitaries approached Auric and Morwen, their expressions solemn and thoughtful. One elder spoke in a melodic tone, translated by the human interpreters. "You have shown the galaxy a truth we have long forgotten. Strength lies not in beauty but in wisdom, courage, and the power to act wisely. Humans, you are worthy indeed." The grand selection ended not with superficial celebration but with genuine respect. Humans had shown that they could make choices that others could not understand. They valued substance over appearances, intelligence over charm, and trust over convention. As the fleet prepared to return to human space, Morwen walked beside Auric. "I never thought I would be seen for what I truly am," she said softly. Auric shook his head. "You always were. I just had the insight to see it. That is what humans do. We look beyond the obvious." Morwen nodded. She understood now that her life had changed. She had gone from being ignored to being celebrated, not for what she looked like, but for her true abilities. She had shown the galaxy that even the least admired could be the strongest, the wisest, and the most valuable. The journey back to human space was quiet but full of reflection. Officers who had doubted her before now sought her guidance. Aliens who had whispered in judgment now looked at her with respect. And Morwen, the witch once called the Ugliest, walked proudly, knowing that she had earned her place not through appearance but through the courage to be herself. Auric watched her quietly. In choosing Morwen, he had not only won the grand selection but had proven a lesson of human nature. That insight, courage, and the ability to see beyond the surface were the greatest strengths of all. And in that quiet understanding, a bond was formed, one that would be remembered across the galaxy. Humans and witches, united in respect and trust, had reshaped the way the universe looked at power, beauty, and value. For Morwen, for Eric, and for all humans, the lesson was clear. True worth is never measured by appearances. It is measured by courage, intelligence, and the strength to stand as you are, even when the galaxy doubts you. And with that understanding, the fleet sailed home, ready for the challenges of tomorrow, stronger than ever, and united in the knowledge that the ugliest witch had become the greatest prize of all.